What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for October 18th, 2022. Start off by wishing my lovely daughter Ella a wonderful 6th birthday today, even though she's not old enough to listen to this. You know how it goes. And I actually want to get into the next thing then. I had a couple questions come in. I want to make sure I'm explaining to everybody and everybody knows sort of what's going on. And basically, yes, I do have now 2 podcasts. So for those of you listening here, this is This Day in Philly Sports History. It's sort of a micro mini podcast where I'll do 2 to 6, 7 minutes, depending on what happened this day in Philly sports history. We've been doing a lot of Phillies playoff stuff, Eagles previews. Probably will get into some things with the Sixers coming up, who they open up tonight. So this is basically just like your quick hitter. I post the video. This started off as a video, actually, and then I turned it into the micro podcast. So be sure that you're liking This Day in Philly Sports History. You're following us on YouTube. This is where on YouTube I post all of the videos for this. So if you're looking for something while you're just sitting there having your coffee, that would be a place to go. I then have the original podcast, which is a lot longer and more thematic. That's Back to the Future with a PH. So for those of you who are listening to this but haven't checked that out, go check it out wherever you get your podcasts. And in that, I'll take a look at something that happened or went this way, and we talk about what would have happened if it gone the other way. So we've done things for Randall Cunningham when he blew out his knee. We've done the Phillies with Cliff Lee. I did an Eagles preview where we talked about what would happen if Jalen Hurts basically is doing what he's doing now. So things like that. We looked at the Dallas Eagles rivalry last week. I had my brother on and worked with us. So I put that out once a week. And again, that's more usually 30 to 45 minutes or so. So be sure to check that out. It's Back to the Future with a PH if you haven't done so. So when you hear me talking about that, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm hopefully going to be recording either tonight or tomorrow, depending on between Ella's birthday as well as the Philly schedule. I don't know what's going to happen now. I think tonight's still locked in, but I don't know what's going to happen to tomorrow's game, if they're going to change that time at all because the Yankees got rained out last night. But anyway, just wanted to make sure I was clarifying everything. You have this podcast, which is the quick daily one. I have the longer one, Back to the Future, which I usually post once a week, anytime between Monday and Thursday is usually when I try to get that out. So that's coming out. I'm going to do a Sixers preview and look at the state of Philadelphia sports and compare it, because I've been hearing a lot of comparison about how great this era is. And we're going to take a quick dive in, because the main thing is the Phillies preview, or the Sixers preview, but I do want to talk about what's been happening. So this is probably going to be way longer than the 6-7 minutes than I said, but I wanted to make sure, because a few people had reached out, that everything was clear on that. So on this day, back in 2009, the Phillies were also in the NLCS. They were the defending champs, and this was Game 3 back in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park. They were 1-1 after splitting in LA, which, if I'll get to in a minute, if the Phillies can go 1-1 in San Diego and come back home for 3 games, I will take it. But they came back home. Ryan Howard led the game off with a 2-run triple. Jayson Werth backed that up with a 2-run homer. Shane Victorino hit a 3-run homer in the 8th, and the Phils just sort of exploded, and one going away. And Cliff Lee was on the mound. He was dealing that day. He gave up 3 hits and 10 strikeouts over his 8 innings. He was also very good with the bat that game. He went 1 for 3, scored a run, knocked in a run, I think he did as well. And basically, didn't necessarily need to come out of the game, but they took him out, and I think Chad Durbin came in. So they ended up winning. All told, it was 11-0. But they would win the next 2 games to go to their second straight World Series. So that's why I said if they can come back from San Diego tied at 1, the precedent is set that they've gone out to the West Coast, come back, won 3 in a row at home. So This day in Philly sports history, October 18th, 2009, Phils beat the Dodgers 11-0 behind a big offensive effort and strong Cliff Lee pitching. So that ties in perfectly with our Phillies preview. The Phillies started off tonight in the NLCS out in San Diego. And I feel like both teams, first of all, are hot. They both, if you remember down the stretch, we talked a lot about how neither one of the teams seemed like they wanted to get in, and the same way with the Brewers. So they all both backed into the playoffs almost. And I also feel like the way they're structured, these teams are very, very similar. They have a lot of high priced offensive pieces. If you remember, it was San Diego and the Phillies when it came to Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. And San Diego went with Machado. The Phillies ended up going with Harper. They both have good starting pitching. And I think the bullpen questions the Phillies had coming in the season are the difference. However, they have really surprised us with how well they've pitched, especially in that Atlanta series. They were playing pretty lights out. So as far as picking this series, at this point, with everything the Phillies have been doing, it's hard to not pick the Phillies to win this series. But I'm not sure how many of you have been paying attention. The Padres have been playing pretty much the same way. They're coming into this series the same way. They knocked off the Mets. They knocked off the Dodgers. So if anything, it should be a very evenly matched series. And I do think it goes 6-7 games. I think the key, just like all of the other series so far, they need to steal one of those first two games. Well, obviously in St. Louis they had to, or else they would have lost. But I think in that Atlanta series, when they won that first game, it sort of set the tone then for the rest of the series. And I think they need to do the same thing here in San Diego. I think they'll do that. And I think the way the Phillies defense has been playing, they've been playing pretty lights out, minus Rhys Hoskins. But I think they should be able to battle back. They did win the season series against the Padres 4-3 this year. So they were pretty evenly matched during the season. And I think the key to this series, it's going to come down to Schwarber and Hoskins. Everybody else is playing pretty much where you want them. Harper is red hot. You can't have your 1 and 2 hitters playing as poorly as they did. Yes, Hoskins has the big home run and Schwarber had some walks and key things here, but they cannot go and play the way they played that last series. So I need to see more out of them. And I think that's going to be the difference. If we see one or both of those guys snap out of their slump, Phillies win it. If they're in that slump again, I think it's going to be tougher because you're gonna have to play a team with good starting pitching and just a very more explosive offense, I think. So you're going to put more pressure on your pitchers. So in order to take that pressure off, they need to kind of set the table for everybody else. But I think they get it done. So we'll go with Phillies in 7 games. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. Sorry for the longer pod today, but I had to, like I said, I wanted to make sure got everything in. We got the history part in and then the Phillies preview. So we'll be back to a normal 2 to 5 minute podcast tomorrow. But go Phils. Have yourselves a Tuesday. Until next time, I'll see you when I see you.